Hello, 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 everyone. Woo,
Good
community
morning.
day. How's everyone doing?
Good, good. I hear this group often talks about their coffee, so I had my coffee dripping this morning or poured over this morning to get ready for this the stream.
Oh, nice. A pour over. It's like
you can't tell this is my invisible Timescale mug, but the coffee's cooling off, so the logo is going away. But
yeah,
representing as best as I can
heat
today.
that coffee up. I unfortunately did not have time to actually make coffee, so my husband bought us coffee, so I can't compare. I'm sorry. I know it's.
I won't hold it against
great.
you.
Thank you, thank you. I appreciate that, Mike.
Been an exciting week, Mike.
Yeah, it's been many people might have known we go through this. We found it's great for our users to hear about a lot of what we've been doing here at Timescale in a short period of time. And so this was last year we kicked this off for the first time with 2 full months of what we called Always Be Launching, where I think last March and October we had 12 launches each month. This year, as we're growing, we're putting more and more stuff out, and it doesn't make sense to wait for full months. So we're actually doing them more frequently, but now focusing on individual weeks. So this was Always Be Launching Cloud Week, first Cloud Week of 2022.
That's great. So how have you guys been planning? What's going to happen for this week? What's that look like?
Yeah, so I mean, I think we've been one thing when you have a great team is you actually already have a lot of things outstanding, and one thing that we've seen is that we have a couple actually kind of big things that I'm not quite yet prepared to talk about coming up. But in building a great product, and a great platform, it's not just about the big thing. It's how do you continuously improve it for those things that your users are hearing about. And today, this week, it's a mixture of kind of those bigger things, and also little improvements that continually make the platform better for people.
That's awesome. I have to ask, what do you think is your favorite or not favorite, because everything is awesome that we're releasing, but what are you most yeah. Just like you don't have favorite children, right? It's right.
Well, I don't talk about that
on
streaming, public streaming.
But what would you say are you most excited about in this launch week?
Yeah, so I think there's 2 features. And one I think is actually just getting released today, so maybe I'll foreshadow a little bit. One is to really to allow developers to better collaborate together, and kind of multi-user projects are coming to Timescale Cloud today. And the other one is to provide a more worry-free experience. When we launched Timescale, this is going back a bit. We used to say, when boring is awesome. You want the database to just work, scale with you, easy to use, and you definitely don't want your database waking up at 3 a.m. And that's even more so when you trust us to run your critical infrastructure on Timescale Cloud. So we think that this reliability and high availability is really about kind of defense in depth. We should be looking at many ways to ensure your availability, so it doesn't wake you up at 3 a.m. And so for us, that meant a couple things from day one. It started with, for example, continuous and incremental streaming backups, so that we could restore your database automatically to any point in time if there are any story outages. And this is replicated across multiple autonomous zones. This could take minutes, or even for multi-terabytes, it could take hours. So that's not necessarily good enough. So we also are the cloud native form of Timescale Cloud brought into disaggregated storage, where your compute and storage are separate. And this has lots of great benefits. You can flexibly choose the configuration that fits your workload. And because they're independent and your storage is replicated, if your compute node fails, then the platform also automatically detects that and restarts your database. Brings up your database on a new node, reconnects it to existing storage, and moves on. And so this is much better. If you have a hard outage without paying for any extra replication, you'd only get maybe 30 or 60 seconds of downtime. Although in the worst case, maybe it could be a couple minutes. But for some mission critical workloads, even a few minutes at worst isn't good enough. And so that's where one of our announcements this week came in, which was full database replication. And here, take an existing database. And the cool thing is you don't need to configure this up front. You could already have a running database. You said, well, now I'm ready to promote this to prod. Click a button, and the infrastructure will automatically create a replica, do it in the background asynchronously. And if there's an outage, the system will then, we in fact give you two connection strings, one that points to the so-called primary, one that points to the replica. And if the primary ever fails, the system will automatically promote the existing replica to primary, remap your connections, and you'll be able to continue on without any outages. But the cool thing, I mentioned these 2 strings, it also allows you to accelerate reads. So if you want to give off this dashboard to, let's say, your internal teams, they could build up dashboards and not interfere with your production primary, you could do that as well. So I think it's a really powerful yet kind of easy to use feature. The second thing that I'm really excited about really is just the announcement of multi-user projects. And so this was, we allow you to now have many services, many database services running in your project, but you can invite all of your collaborators and coworkers and maybe friends, hopefully friends, to interact with the platform with you. And I think over time, you'll see more and more features built around this to make Timescale Cloud and even the console a way to share access, to provide different even permissions to services. And so, we really think about, databases are good with friends too. And so we really think about it's more than just bringing up a database in the cloud, but becoming a platform to allow developers to collaborate together and kind of get their job done. So those are 2 things I think were, asked for by many of your users. We were listening and kind of really excited that they went out this week.
It's really great.
It's awesome.
Mike, I think, what I hear you saying is a conversation I've been seeing for the last maybe year and a half, more and more in the database community, but certainly in the Postgres community around database experience, right? Developer experience within the database and providing those platforms. There's a lot of companies trying, different ways to do that. And so it seems to be what you're describing. There are other things that come to mind when you think about developer experience within the database user experience that really you guys are focusing on and something we're trying to conquer at Timescale?
Yeah, I think that there's 2 ways that we're thinking about the kind of database user experience. I mean, first of all, we have a lot of efforts in the database in TimescaleDB itself. Last year we kicked off this new thing called our database toolkit, where we introduced these hyper functions and this new really cool function called function pipeline, which is like a functional programming even within SQL for time series and analysts. That's all about developer experience. But that's also maps to the cloud. And I think one of the ways that we think about developer experience in the cloud are kind of 2 themes. Internally, we talk about this metaphor. I don't know if it's a good one or not, but this metaphor, which we call the transparent box, which is that if you think about most services, there's this tension between people just want a black box. They want an endpoint. They want it to just work. That's the promise, often unrealized, but the promise of serverless. And then the flip side, you sometimes says, well, that doesn't give me what you want. I want control still. I want to be able to twiddle on the knobs, because sometimes my workload needs certain things. I mean, and not all configurations, not all are perfect for every user. And so we want this, there's a tension, there's inherent tension between these 2 things. And so the thing that we've always been thinking about with Timescale Cloud is how do we address this tension? How do we provide that amazing initial experience? In product, they sometimes say the devil's in the defaults. And we do that because, for example, with Timescale Cloud, we even now have a auto scale your storage. So turn on auto scaling, set it and forget it. And when you need to the platform will auto scale. And in fact, we tune your database when you start. We bring it up with a good configuration. What people might not realize is when we auto scale it, or if you decide to move it, we actually behind the scenes retune your database. So some of the configuration settings are getting automatically changed if your resources change. Again, this is all about making a good experience, black box out of the box. I'm using the word box too much. But then we want to give you flexibility. So if you need to, you can go into our settings page and, there's dozens of configuration parameters, and you could actually have control over what you could manage. And by the way, with the replicas, which we launched, when you do it to your primary, that also carries on to your replicas as well. So you don't have to tune every instance. And the second part I would just say is, I think we don't really talk about it as a DBaaS. We think about it as a database cloud. Because I think that if you think about the modern developer, it's not just about running one database. In fact, when you're building an application, you have many databases. Best practices, every microservice probably has its own database. And so you actually don't want to necessarily think about all those databases completely independently. So we want to provide you a cloud experience that allows you to manage not just a single database, but allows you to manage your entire fleet of databases. not just when one database goes from dev to test to staging to prod, but also the fact that you have many microservices, many analytical things. Some are pure Postgres, some are Timescale as well. And how do we provide a platform for all of that and even enable them to share data between them? We do that on internally. Part of the way we run Timescale Cloud is we use TimescaleDB internally. We use Postgres databases internally. And we already do all those things internally. We find it super powerful and useful. And now we want to make that type of functionality available to our users.
That's great. It's been I tweeted earlier this week, it was fun to look at the launch calendar and see, just what some of these things are coming and knowing the conversation of other things to come. And it is really exciting to see what's going to happen in 2022.
Yeah, the exciting part is, as we continue to grow, and Timescale is growing quickly these days, we're continuing to then, build more awesome stuff, have great people now all around the world. And, it's also super useful having a global team when you also run ops and support globally. So even though we're, we still have ways to go in terms of company, we have 24/7 coverage around the world, which again, I think is important for when boring is awesome for your cloud.
Definitely.
Well, I think you have a busy Timescale community day here.
Yes. Well, I'm super excited about all the talks that are coming today. Like, we got so many amazing speakers. I mean, everyone is amazing. And I'm just like, I know that I'm like ready to just hunker down at the desk all day and just learn, just let all the knowledge wash over me.
Well, I'm excited to watch it too. So
it's great. Mike, thanks for joining us to get us started this morning. We have first talk getting ready to come up, and then it's really nonstop through the day, everyone. I think Miranda's going to go ahead and lead us in just a minute. But we are so excited to see everyone here and be a part of this day. There's just a lot of fun, unique talks, really spanning it. That's what I love about this kind of program. It's not just Postgres. It's not just time series. It's not just observability. We really have had a ton of fun getting to know some new faces and new people. So we're excited. And I think we're going to go ahead and jump in and kick off. Mike, it's been good to see you this morning. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us.